So just when we thought things couldn't get hotter in the Persian Gulf, things just hit a whole new level. The U.S. has unleashed the USS Gerald R. Ford from the Caribbean. The second carrier is now going to join the USS Abraham Lincoln, creating a full dual carrier strike force right in Iran's backyard. And this comes just as President Trump warned of a very traumatic consequence if talks fail. And it looks like Israel is pushing for strikes on Iran's missile arsenal. So beyond just the nuclear issue, because Israeli intelligence has shown that the rebuilding of the ballistic missiles has hit a whole new level just in the last few weeks, up to 2,000 of those ballistic missiles. So to me, this deployment isn't just random, it's maximum pressure while the Oman-mediated talks take place. This new era of carrier power projection is making this standoff even hotter. So stick around to the very end, because I've got a full breakdown for you on why two carriers is a smart move, and the threats they're facing might call for that, the air wings that make them different, and how this plays into a bigger 4D chess situation. And here are the actual headlines that are coming out of Iran right now. The USS Gerald R. Ford helped capture Maduro in Venezuela. What could they be doing in Iran? U.S. orders second aircraft carrier to Middle East as Iran tensions grow. The U.S. has sent hundreds of Starlink terminals to Iran amid the internet ban, and how Iran's military was degraded by the 12-day war with Israel, but still has significant capabilities. And the USS Gerald R. 4 isn't equipped with F-35s. It's equipped with F-18s, EA-18G Growlers, but the capability now teaming up with the Abraham Lincoln that's actually in the Persian Gulf allows for a higher sortie generation rate. It allows for a 33% more sortie generation rate, which means more aircraft blasting off the deck of the USS Ford. And that's because of the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, or the EMAs for you acronym-hungry viewers. And that means to me that the initial strikes could come out of the USS Abraham Lincoln, which has the F-35s going in against the air defenses. But then, if you want a continuous volley striking down different targets, you would want the additional carrier there, which can launch more aircraft. So, at this point, these two carriers can bring different capabilities to the fight, but they're teaming up in a way that looks seamless to me, even better than the brothers and stepbros. But let's talk about the threat side and why these two carriers might be needed. Because Iran is playing extreme hardball at this point after the 2025 war, they've reconstituted up to 2,000 ballistic missiles in the last few weeks, shielding underground nuke sites and repairing missile factories, per the satellite images that we've seen. They've also got layered integrated air defense systems, the IADs with S-300s and S-400 batteries, plus decoys, electronic warfare jamming, and potentially even weapons that can intercept these fourth-generation fighters. Proxies are active too, with Houthis potentially ready to launch drone swarms, fast boats that could team up with Iran and make this whole situation even more than a wild card. And then again, the regime crushing their protests with thousands dead, while it looks to me like daring the U.S. to strike with all the rhetoric coming out of Iran. This, to me, has now become a classic asymmetric playbook, with Iran having missiles, proxies, and propaganda potentially to buy time while they rebuild and make this missile stockpile even bigger. But with two carriers, it looks to me like Iran's threats are coming in hot. But the dual carrier setup can take the full load. So on the U.S. side, with the USS Abraham Lincoln, the real star of the show is the carrier air wing there that houses the F-35C Lightning II. That's the stealth workhorse powered by a Pratt & Whitney F-135, after burning turbofan that puts out 43,000 lbs of thrust. Top speed, Mach 1.6 combat radius, 700 nautical miles. This thing is built for deep strikes on hardened targets that are protected by sensitive surface-to-air missiles, even going in and potentially targeting underground nuke sites. Then you've got the F-18C and F, which is also on the USS Abraham Lincoln, and it's on the Gerald R. Ford, which is making its way there as well. That thing has two F-414 turbofans, 44,000 lb of thrust with a combat radius of 500 nmi. So these F-18s are multi-role beasts. They're built to handle air superiority, but more than that, close air support should this turn into some sort of air interdiction mission. What that means is going in, striking down anything, trying to shoot you, and then dropping bombs on target, or even talking to joint terminal air controllers, special operations teams that are on the ground, and they can carry a lot of ordnance, even for a carrier-based aircraft. They carry 500 LB bombs. They carry potentially APKWS anti-drone rockets. So with each of these carriers, you've got packages that can operate 24/7 blasting off the deck. Again, the USS Gerald R being able to generate about 33% more of a sortie rate. That means more aircraft just due to that EOS setup. The airframes on both of these carriers are built to thrust in hard and go into the fight without any reservations. But the weapons layer here is what's really important because the dual carrier force really brings a lot more metal to the fight. From the carriers, you've got those joint air-to-surface standoff missiles that can be on the F-35C. They can launch off prior to them needing to be stealth. And those could be for precision strikes 500 meters out, and then after the initial IADs go down, all the different surface-to-air missiles go down. Now the F-35s can start plinking off other targets, and then behind them, you bring in the F-18s blasting off of both carriers. And then, not to mention the ships that come along with the carrier strike group, they're like the guy that she told you not to worry about because they bring Tomahawk cruise missiles for deep inland hits. SM-6 missiles that can knock down ballistic threats or even surface targets. And again, we've seen Iran a lot of propaganda coming out saying that they can actually strike the ships with their anti-ship missiles. So, if you have missiles that can strike those down, you've really got a built-in layer of deterrence against Iran's propaganda threats. And then the E-2D Hawkeye, which is on both of these ships, can queue in different sensors, can pass information via data link to all the different fighters in the area. And then the EA-18G Growler can blast off of both of these ships as well. Both of them are equipped with the EA-18G. They can jam enemy radars and jam communications, even intercepting the communications between the Ayatollah and his girlfriend as he complains about his wife. They can punch through enemy jamming, and they have autonomous features with newer munitions that let them adapt mid-flight to whatever is trying to target them. And then you layer that in with Aegis destroyers, cruisers running close-in weapon systems, the CIWS, like the Phalanx. Those are basically last-ditch defenses against drone swarms, against fast boats. And now you've got two systems that integrate air, sea, and electronic layers to handle saturation attacks from Iranian missiles or their fast boats, or the proxies that are teaming up with them. With these different carriers, it's like you've got Neo in the Matrix who can see everything coming at them and dodge every incoming threat with a layered defense. Let's move to a section I like to call 4D chess. So, why have two carriers there? One was there, one took care of Maduro, but two carriers give the Trump administration real leverage without jumping into a straight war. Double the leverage. It sends a massive message that actual kinetic strikes could happen should the negotiations fail. And it's basically countering Thrawn's stalling. It looks like a lot of stalling to me on their missile talks with Iran, saying they don't want to talk about the missiles. They don't want to talk about proxies. They're only willing to talk about the nuclear weapons program. And at the end of the day, the ballistic missiles and the proxy armies are a huge threat here. So Houthi militias could try something. They could try to saturate the different defenses of the carriers. The ballistic missiles, again, those could launch towards Tel Aviv or U.S. bases in the area. So really, Iran's nuclear program is important. And obviously, it needs to be talked about. But these two different issues definitely stand out to me as a second and third that is extremely important. And in addition to that, when I think about the internal regime crackdowns to me, it looks like they're betting on defiance. They're continuing the crackdowns on any of the protesters that stood up against the regime. And to me, it looks like they're just doubling down on being defiant at this point. So let's move to a hypothetical situation of what could go down now that there's these two carriers that are going to be in the region here shortly. So let's say E-2D Hawkeyes blast off of both of these carriers. Now, you've got the ability to pinch all of Iran because you've got multiple E-2D Hawkeyes. You've got double the ability to look and see what they're up to. So let's say that the E-2D Hawkeyes pick up a swarm, 30 fast boats and 60 low-flying drones coming in at 50 mph from multiple different directions, trying to surround these different carriers, and they're trying to overwhelm the escorts as well. So at this point, airborne growlers would light up the entire swarm with their jamming, basically trying to strike down all of these drones, even with potential of having high-powered microwave technology integrated, which could blind the drones themselves, having them fall harmlessly into the ocean. And while that's all happening, the Growlers would also want to be jamming the different radar sites that are on the coast of Iran. They'd be jamming the communications and the radar sites. So the C-2, the command and control, which likely goes pretty close, if not directly, to the Ayatollah himself and the inner circle. And it would be jamming their ability to communicate with their different units that they would be trying to use to back up this massive swarm that they've already sent. And then F-35Cs from the Lincoln, wooden 200 meters MPH blasting off, going in to drop JASSMs, joint air-to-surface standoff missiles from about 400 nautical miles away. And their main goal would be to take out the IADS, the Integrated Air Defense Systems, while this was all going on. So the F-35s would be up there basically playing 4D chess themselves, skipping the fast boats, skipping the swarm of drones, and allowing those to be taken care of by the EA-18G Growlers. At this point, the F-35s would drop the different defenses on the coast of Iran, and then right behind them would be a multiple wave of strikers. Again, all these different Super Hornets blasting off the deck of the Ford and of the Lincoln, rolling in at 1-300 MPOX, ready to go. The Aegis ships would go into full battle mode. They'd be firing SM-6, knocking down any of the different surface-to-air missiles, the anti-ship missiles that were being shot at the ships themselves, while that phalanx close-in weapon systems would be ready to go to tear apart any of those fast boats. And now the drones have been taken care of. The fast boats have been taken care of. No hits on the US side, and the F-35Cs are up there just telling the Ayatollah, yeah, not on my watch. The swarm would be toast. And the message is crystal clear. Don't test this dual carrier force because they're bringing a lot of heat to the battle. So there you go, guys. We are now in a situation with a dual carrier force going to be in the Middle East here very soon with that USS Gerald R. Ford, with its EOLS system, joining the Abraham Lincoln as the second carrier. We talked about the Iranian threats from their missile rebuild and how important it is for Iran to keep as many of those ballistic missiles as they possibly can. To me, it looks like they probably see those ballistic missiles as the #1 thing protecting the regime. But the F-35C has a little bit of something to say about that. The Super Hornets coming in behind them basically could make the magic happen. We covered the different weapons as well, that joint air-to-air surface standoff missiles, how that works with that layered defense. And will this 4D chess situation happen here in the next few days or the next few weeks going up against Iranian drone swarms and Iranian fast boats? Bottom line, dual carriers in the Middle East that will be there in a few days gives the US overwhelming options, sustained. Operations and real deterrence in a tense standoff with Iran. And we didn't even cover the fixed-wing assets that are there on the US Air Force side. The Ford's advanced system, the air wing, the reach, and the full integration make this thing a smart play that backs diplomacy with some serious teeth. And this game's moving extremely fast. So where do you think this goes from here? What do you think we see in the next few days or next few weeks, having this dual carrier out there to pinch in the regime? Let me know in the comments below. And then go ahead and follow me on X. Follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there pretty much every day. And if you want to see a live from me every week, click the link in the description and join the Max Ready Room. I'll see you there. And then watch this next video that pops up right here. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing